The other day I went into a bookstore and I looked in that room and there were thousands of books about God, about the church, about salvation, about sin, about Jesus, about the Holy Spirit, all these various things. And I looked and I thought, well, that's great. 2 Timothy 2 and verse 15, we find that God has given the command to study to show yourself approved unto God as workmen that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing, handling aright the word of truth. Well, then I began to ponder and I think, wait a minute, these books, they don't all agree. I can find just about whatever I want regarding to who God is, about his character, about Jesus, about the Holy Spirit, about salvation, about sin, about the church, about the family, on and on it goes. Well, what was the problem? Well, if God has given us a truth that can make us free, John 8 and verse 32, that we can know, then there must be another problem. That is, why do I study? And I looked in the scriptures and I began to contemplate that and I thought about self. What's my motive for study? Well, I realized it couldn't be like the devil in Genesis, the 3rd chapter, where he just simply perverted what God had said. You can eat of any tree, and he took that to a realm that God had never given. And then when he specified into looking at Eve and Adam, and she said, if we eat of this tree, we'll die. And he said, no, you won't. I mean, he just flat out lied and denied what God said. He wanted followers after himself. In the book of Acts, the 20th chapter and verse 30, we can find that that can happen even amongst people who are Christians. They can seek to pervert the truth, speaking these perverse things, drawing away disciples after their own selves. Others in Matthew 15:9, I could study for the reason of following the doctrines of men. What's the latest, greatest preacher said? What's this religion always taught? Well, Jesus said, no, in vain do they worship me doing this. Other times you find people who will simply look and they'll find the parts that they like. Matthew, the 7th chapter, verse 21 through 23. Those individuals did good things, but Jesus said, depart from me. Why? He said, you've got to obey the will of my Father, which is in heaven. And then he said in verse 24, you hear and you keep, you obey these commandments of mine, not part and parcel, but God said it and that settles it. And then you look and you find that God has given us the valid reason for study. That's where we started, 2 Timothy 2, verse 15. I study to show myself approved unto God. I don't want to be ashamed in front of him. And I can accomplish that by handling aright the word of truth. I pray that's our goal. And in fact, in 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, in verse 11 and 12, we find if we do that, we will have to have a love of the truth. If you love the truth, look and be noble and search the scriptures as to what he says. And if you love him, keep those things. John 14 and verse 15. Thank you for listening. If we can help you in doing that, feel free to contact us.